Welcome back to Double Play. I am Chris Klemmer. Next to me is Brandon Walker. In Double Play, we talk about the best and worst of sports movies.
Hello once again, ladies and gentlemen. I am the incomparable Brandon Walker, sitting beside an absolute broomstick of a man, Chris Klemmer. And we are here on Double Play, a Lights Camera Barstool production, to discuss the best and the worst of sports movies.
You're so proud of yourself.
Just so much better at this than you.
Better at what?
Did you see how much better mine was than yours?
Do you think you're better at pitch man than I am?
You know what? I know what you're trying to do, and yes, I do. Yes, I do. We all fall sometimes.
Yes.
We all make mistakes.
Yep.
We all mess up.
Yeah.
Only the true champions, the greats, can get back up and dust themselves off.
Well, you fall down a lot, but you also dust yourself off a lot, so I respect that.
You know, you're the one that asked me to do this show.
That's not true, actually. It's not true. Want to hear what really happened? I went to Jeff with this idea. My first week, I was on board, and he said, Brandon wants to do that show. So Jeff made this arranged marriage happen.
No, I tried to do this sports movie podcast 3 years ago.
No one wanted to do it with you, right?
He just didn't think it was a good idea at the time.
Yeah. Maybe because no one wanted to work with you, or?
You keep saying that.
Yeah.
No, Jeff...
I don't understand, I guess.
Jeff didn't have the time to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're doing it now.
We certainly are. Today we're talking about Caddyshack and Caddyshack 2.
Oh.
This is, last week we did Major League and Major League 3 back to the minors. This might be a larger separation of quality.
I have a statement off the top.
Okay.
Pound for pound, when you consider the resources put in it and the expectations thrust upon it and everything with a movie. Because we've done some bad movies here.
Yes.
Eddie, we've done some bad movies.
Major League 3. The Babe.
This right here that I'm pointing at is the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. Caddyshack 2, if you take everything at face value, or you take everything and weight it a little bit, saying, they still have Harold Ramis as a credited writer. Like, they still have Chevy Chase in it. It is the
Dan Aykroyd's in it.
It is the worst movie I've ever seen. And full disclosure, first of all, I am 44 years old. You're 43. We'll be 44 in a couple months, correct?
November, yeah.
We grew up at the same time.
Yes.
1988. Not a beautiful time for movies.
We did. So we had a little conversation earlier today about 88 movies. We did forget one in our conversation.
What's that?
Die Hard.
Die Hard came out in 88?
Yeah.
Okay.
Summer of 88.
Summer of 88. So Who Framed Roger Rabbit was a big movie. What were the biggest movies in 1988? Because this one, when it was rumored and then when it was coming out, it was going to be a major, major movie.
Well, this came out in July. This came out right in the middle of the summer. Right, they wanted it to be a big hit. It was the big comedy that Warner Brothers had.
It was a tentpole comedy of the summer.
Yeah, it went up. So number one that week. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? We lost our thing there. I'm going to try to fix that. I'm going to tech Chris for a second. Tech guy Chris.
Just in case we don't know how to do this, I'm going to speak and provide commentary while he does this, and he failed.
I am not going to fix it. I tried the.
We have that logo.
You saw it. It did exist. So
3 minutes.
Do you want to hear what I did to try it to fix it?
You move the
mouse.
The mouse.
Sometimes that works,
Oh my God. Well, whatever.
This is great.
Nobody expects much out of you.
What's better? Well, this is not my fault.
All right. Whatever. All right. So this was a tentpole movie, Caddyshack 2.
Yes. Was it the Aurora Borealis Part 3? This isn't even the right time.
I could still make a train to get home. Caddyshack itself.
Yes.
Which is, we do a juxtaposition here of a good one and a bad one. And I guess this is the second straight week we've done movies in the same franchise. Caddyshack is one of the beloved movies of all time. I don't even have to say sports movies. I think it's just a beloved movie across all genres.
One of the greatest comedies ever. Like, just full stop.
It's one of the greatest comedies ever. I would be hard pressed to make a list of the 10 best comedies ever without including Caddyshack, or without at least giving it heavy consideration.
Exactly.
It came out the same year as Airplane, another one that was is up there. So it was,
create a whole new genre.
It was a year for comedy, a year for good movies, and then you go forward to 88. They go 8 years between the original and the sequel.
which never works.
It never works.
This happened with Major League. It was an 8-year gap for that too, or a 9-year gap for that.
But even if you go further, like what Dumb and Dumber go 20 years.
That
between,
was right. I mean,
Anchorman 2, went several years.
You miss the magic. I think when you go that far out, you miss
can't
that.
put it back in a bottle, right?
Especially for comedies.
I think if you do it immediately, you got a chance. But you can't. And here's the beautiful Golden Gate Bridge. Caddyshack 2.
How much money did Barstool sell for it?
Caddyshack 2 is one of the great bombs in the history of the movies.
Yes. So here's what else was out. We always do this usually at the end.
Summer of '88. Yes. What can I go see?
Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Huge movie. I think it is fine. It's good.
It was number 1 in its 5th week.
Okay.
I think it's a very good movie.
I almost think Who Framed Roger Rabbit these days certainly doesn't get the love it got. Like back then, it was a gigantic movie. I mean, it was the movie of the years, the event of the summer. But now you look back, you don't hear it talked about like that.
Not at all.
Yeah, it's just kind of a thing that happened.
Yes.
What were those second through?
Actually, a very good comedy in its 4th week in release, Coming to America.
Fantastic movie. Yes.
Die Hard is very good.
These are all out at the same time.
All at the same time.
Summer of '88. I can go see any of those 3 movies.
You can see the Deadpool, which was, I think that's Clint Eastwood, right?
That at all.
And then
it was Eastwood.
So this was what was the same week. If I could speak, the same first week. So obviously this came out. Big Top Pee-wee had come out.
Big Top Pee-wee, the follow-up to Pee-wee's Big Adventure,
which was not very good.
Big Top Pee-wee was not good, and Pee-wee's Big Adventure was good.
And Midnight Run. So that was the weekend. This is a pretty big weekend for studios. You had Midnight Run, Big Top Pee-wee, Caddyshack 2. Midnight Run, if people are younger, don't know, it's Robert De Niro, Charles Grodin.
Yeah, a very good movie.
Yeah, a movie that you have to think be a certain age to appreciate. The pacing is very slow.
Well, it's also a movie that I think has kind of garnered more respect the further you get away from it. Like it was a slow build. I don't remember it being a gigantic hit, but it's a very well respected movie.
It is. I think if you're a certain age, if you're 45 to 55, you love this movie. It's one of your favorite comedies ever.
Finish that weekend for me. Give me all 10.
We also have the Bambi 1988 re-release.
Don't remember. Oh, just a re-release of the cartoon?
But here's one in its 8th week in release. Big.
Okay. All right.
And then in its 6th week in release is Bull Durham in the 10th spot.
Where in the summer did this get released? Is this July?
July. This is July 22nd.
If it gets released July, they have big expectations for it.
I think they had big expectations for all these movies. Midnight Run, Robert De Niro. Big Top Pee-wee. Pee-wee's Big Adventure was a big
Pee-wee, 1988 Pee-wee Herman is still a gigantic star.
Yeah, had a big morning show on Saturday mornings, obviously. And then Caddyshack 2, which was, even...
What was your favorite Pee-wee's Playhouse? What was your favorite part of Pee-wee's Playhouse? Were you a cherry guy? Were you
I like the Globey guy.
I don't remember what his name
was. Make a hiney ho.
Oh, yeah. Okay. What was it? Jambi. I think.
Oh, no, he was in a globe. He was the guy in the...
he was in a ball.
Yeah, he was in a ball.
He was in the wall,
green face.
Yeah. Make a hiney ho, yeah.
Yeah, I like that. What did you like?
I like Lawrence Fishburne,
He's the cowboy. Yeah. So this was definitely a big week for movies. And Caddyshack 2, with the cast that includes Dan Aykroyd, Chevy Chase, you'd expect to be one of the, like you said, because the names involved, you expect this to be a side-splitting, laugh-out-loud comedy just like Caddyshack 1, and instead you get a horrific movie.
All right. Now, when you discuss the worst sequels ever made, Godfather 3 is obviously
has to be
on
in the
list.
Rocky
5 is on the list. To me, this is the worst sequel ever made because I almost give it more credence if it's the second part of a story. Like Godfather 3 is bad, but you still have Godfather 1 and 2, which is 6 or 7 hours of just epicness, right? And then they botched it. They fumbled the ball on the third one. This is, hey, let's wait for a while. Let's try to get the band back together and let's throw it back out there. And they don't get, not only if the name wasn't Caddyshack 2, you wouldn't be able to place these two things in the same universe, really. Outside the name of the country club, the Gopher, and Ty Webb being
That's
there.
it. Exactly right. There's only 2 characters that really exist in both movies. And it's the Gopher, who learns how to speak between 1 and 2, and Ty Webb.
All right. Now we're going to talk about Caddyshack 2.
I do want to bring up one horrible sequel, though.
Please.
Superman 4, The Quest for Peace.
Okay.
It is atrocious.
Walk me through the Superman. So you had Superman.
Superman 1.
Superman 2, is that Neil before Zod? Is that those guys?
Yes. So both are fantastic movies.
Superman 3, is that Richard Pryor?
Yes. Not very good, but not terrible.
What's Superman 4?
The Quest for Peace, it's Lex Luthor creates Nuclear Man. Lex Luthor and his nephew, played by John Cryer.
Now, what year was this made?
88 or 89.
I don't even remember that one coming out.
And Christopher Reeve co-wrote it.
Yeah.
Terrible movie.
Okay, I don't remember that one.
Very bad.
I remember Superman 3 not being very good either.
It makes Superman 3 look like The Godfather.
And Superman 2 is really good.
It's very good. Superman 1 and 2 both were directed by Richard Donner. Richard Donner got fired about 2/3 of the way into Superman 2.
Okay.
Both those movies are very good.
Okay. All right. Now, we're going to talk Caddyshack 2 at length at the end of this. But we like to start by talking about the good one.
Right.
And that means talking about one of the beloved comedies in the history of movies. One of the beloved, just people love it. And it's one of the most, I would argue, for white men of my age, possibly the most quoted movie. It's on the list, right?
It has my favorite quotes. So, like, among people our age, like Austin Powers got quoted a ton in that time.
Yeah.
You have other movies that maybe I don't like as much that get quoted all the time. This one, though, I love the quotes in it. I love Caddyshack. This is a great movie.
Okay. Now, I'm going to briefly pick it apart later, but I also love this movie. I love it unconditionally. I love it so much because, and I'll just do it right now. As a movie, it ain't really, there's not much to it, right? There's not much to it. No. The central plot of Danny Noonan and all that is not really the point of this movie. The point of this movie is to take guys at the peak of their powers, Chevy Chase, Bill Murray, Rodney Dangerfield, Ted Knight, throw them on a golf course and let them cook.
Yep.
Let them go. And we're going to put whatever comes out on camera, and they cook.
Yes.
They cook for an hour and a half. The actual movie itself, separate. There's Danny Noonan, and he's trying to win a caddy scholarship, and he might get a girl pregnant, whatever. That's immaterial to the point of the whole thing, which is if you want to enjoy and smile for an hour and a half, put Caddyshack on at any point in your life.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those movies that can make 8-year-olds laugh. It can make 88-year-olds laugh. Like, it really is for, I know it's rated R or whatever, but if you could laugh, if you're an 8-year-old, you can laugh at a chocolate bar in a pool, everyone thinking it's poop. That's funny when you're 8.
Yeah.
And when you're our age, you can laugh at how funny Ty Webb is, like under his breath, all the things he says. Like, it is something for everyone. It is funny. You have, all these great comedians together. They let them improvise. They let the reins off. They let them just run amok. There was cocaine falling like crazy on set. It was chaos. You had a first-time director. It was all guys in their early 30s, behind the scenes. It was a bunch of young people just letting these great comedians run amok, and what happened was brilliant.
So fill in the gap for me. How did this get made? Is this like somebody wrote a script? Was it Harold Ramis that wrote the whole thing, or who wrote this?
No, Brian Doyle Murray, who plays Lou.
So one of Bill Murray's.
He's in this. He helped.
He plays the caddy boss, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And he was on SNL kind of off and on a little bit when he was there. And Douglas Kenny helped write this as well.
That's right. And he passed away.
He died right after this came out. Yeah. In fact, some people say this movie killed him. What happened was he wrote 2 movies his whole career. This and Animal House. It's a pretty good resume.
Pretty damn good.
This comes out. He has major cocaine issues from beforehand. This got bad reviews. This came out and got torched.
But you could see kind of why it got bad reviews. Like, for a movie reviewer and what they're looking for, this doesn't hit those notes.
And consider who was reviewing it.
But it also doesn't give a shit about those notes.
It was probably a 60-year-old man in 1980 who reviewed this. Like, he grew up with 1920s silent film. They're going to interpret comedy differently than someone who's very young. Like, this was made for people, teenagers and 20-somethings. It wasn't made for film critics. Anyway, gets savaged. He takes it all personally. No one knows what happened to him, but he went to Hawaii to try to beat his cocaine addiction, to get away from everybody. They found his eyeglasses and a jacket neatly folded on the top of a mountain and his body on the bottom of it. Did he kill himself? Did he slip? No one knows. He was in his early 30s.
Well, that's a shame because he wrote 2 incredible movies.
Yeah, genius.
And this one is great. This one is fantastic from start to finish. And like I said, it's less a movie and more a collection of just one-liners and zings and zags. Just terrifically humorous. And if you're hanging out with your boys at any point, you can pull into the reserve and get a Caddyshack quote for the moment. It's just borderline perfection, and I love it. And
what's your favorite part of this movie? What's your favorite element of this movie? Because there's a lot I love. Some people are Rodney people. Some people are Bill Murray people. Like, what is your favorite?
So I wrote down my 5 favorite scenes of the movie, and then I want to have the MVP discussion.
Okay.
Because in this movie, the MVP discussion could be heated. I mean, it could be really. I think I know the answer to the MVP.
Okay.
But to me,
I think it's personal. I don't think there's like a real. I think it's a taste.
What's my favorite part of the movie? Just
your favorite element of it. I guess it might be the MVP. I guess we're kind of having a discussion, but
to me, it's the ultimate. Just boys being boys movie. Just throwing digs out at each other. You know, Rodney Dangerfield at his absolute peak. Chevy Chase. You know, he's supposedly an asshole in real life and whatever. 30 years looking back, people don't give him the respect. He was a goddamn supernova. Chevy Chase is a fucking machine in this movie.
I don't think he's ever better. And that's high praise.
Because Fletch is great.
Vacation?
Yeah.
Is fantastic. Like, you know, the work he did in those movies. His first year in SNL, the only year he was really a full-timer, he was great in that. He was the first one to have his face in the cover of a magazine. He was, like you said, Supernova is great because he was the initial star of that cast. He does all of these huge movies in the 80s. This is my favorite version of him. This is very, 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 very good. This is quintessential him. If you think Chevy Chase in your head, you probably see him delivering a Ty Webb line.
Now, I will say Fletch is also, if this is 1A on the tombstone, Fletch has got to be right behind it as far as individual. That's not as good a movie.
No, that's my issue. I think
because there's nobody else throwing 98 in that movie, whereas in this movie you got 3 or 4 guys throwing 98.
Like, I think Vacation's a funnier movie than Fletch, but Chevy Chase is better in Fletch, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, Chevy Chase and Fletch is an all-time
incredible.
Put this movie on my back and get out of the way. This is all-time. Put the movie on my back and get out of the way. But Rodney Dangerfield's in his locker room saying, "Well, put the movie on my back and get out of the way." Bill Murray saying, "Oh yeah, well watch."
Even
what
Ted
I got.
Knight.
Ted Knight's like, "Look at me."
Like, you have 4 guys. Like,
favorite thing. What's your favorite part of this movie?
Favorite scene?
No, well, you asked me a question. You was like,
I meant like element. I guess it might.
What's your favorite element? You're obviously leaning somewhere.
Yeah, I guess it's my MVP. I was just gonna go to it now. I guess, and it's Chevy Chase. It's Ty Webb. I just think for me, every scene he's in, every line he delivers, I am laughing. I've seen this movie how many times? How many times have you seen this? 50, 100 times?
Between 50 and 100, yeah.
And I laugh every time. The delivery, the line reading, it's just perfect.
But that's the brilliance of Chevy Chase. You can watch a movie, you can watch this movie 40 years later, and the lines he delivers feel like they were written 5 minutes ago. They feel fresh. And you also can sometimes detect a line that you never even heard before, that you never even noticed. That it's just but yeah, he's brilliant.
Has anyone ever been like him? Like,
I don't know. I've never seen an actor where I don't even know how to describe the way he
asshole.
performs.
He's
a likable asshole that dominates everything, but you love him. You love him.
I root for him like in everything he's in.
But in this movie,
but he's kind of he's kind of an asshole.
He's a rich, pretentious piece of shit who's likable as fuck.
Right.
What he represents. This is the snobs versus slobs, right? That's on the. He is a snob who is a slob.
Right.
He is the everyman who is rich.
But it feels natural. It doesn't feel like he's putting on airs or putting down airs.
Now, let's just have this discussion off the top. You mentioned MVP. I think you have 4 clear candidates.
Yes.
You have Chevy Chase as Ty Webb. You have Rodney Dangerfield as Al Chervik. Am I saying it right? You have Rodney Dangerfield, because I don't think he's in the movie the first 10 minutes, maybe 10, 12. I don't know how long it is.
No, I don't think he's in for a little while.
But the second he shows up, you got a different movie. The second you show up, throw open the doors. We're having a fucking party. It is a fucking joke a second. It is bang, 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 bang. He comes in with a fucking machine gun of jokes, just shooting everybody on the screen.
Yep.
And it's remarkable. When he goes to that dinner party, you know, the first time we see him, he's seeing the club for the first time.
Right.
And then he goes out on the golf course. But when he shows up to the fancy highfalutin dinner party, and he is just throwing it at people.
I mean,
hey, dog. Hey.
One of my favorite. We'll do our favorite quotes later, but one of them's in there.
I bet you were something before electricity.
That's one of them.
Want to make $14 the hard way. This steak still has marks where the jockey was hitting it. Like, it's just, he just goes on and on and on and on. I don't. When I say MVP, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I took Ty Webb and Chevy Chase out of this movie, the movie gets worse.
Yeah.
if I take Rodney Dangerfield and Al Trevor out of this movie, I don't know if I like this movie. Like
that's bullshit.
I don't.
I don't.
Hey, that's not bullshit. We're having a discussion. Why do you get to claim?
You wouldn't like it?
I think Rodney Dangerfield really, really, really delivers the heart of this movie. Just delivers the absolute. Chevy Chase, some of his lines are subtle. Some of his lines are whatever. Rodney Dangerfield is absolutely just saying, get the fuck out of my way. I'm about to be funny as I can fucking be for an hour. And it's, I think it's just as much his movie as it is Chevy Chase's.
Oh, no argument there. I think it's shared pretty well among those 4 guys even.
Well, now the 2 other MVP candidates are Bill Murray.
Yes.
That's Carl Spackler, right?
Yep.
I don't think he's in the running for the actual MVP because he's not in it as much as the other guy.
And he's kind of always by himself.
He's always by himself, and his role, it's a supporting role.
Yes.
And now, the fact that it was Bill Murray and how good he was, I think they even wrote a couple scenes at the end to
the whole Chevy Chase thing. They realized they made the movie. We don't have Chevy Chase and Bill Murray in the scene together. So they wrote it over dinner, the 3 of them.
And then if Ty Webb is going to be throwing out these one-liners, if Al Shervick's going to be throwing out these one-liners, you got to have somebody who is willing to give and take with them, right? You got to have, and fucking Ted Knight is Judge Smales. Listen, he doesn't get the credit for his one-liners, but he throws some fucking fastballs too.
Oh yeah,
I've sent his boys younger than you to the gas chamber. Didn't want to do it. Felt like I owed it to him.
Yeah, right.
and the world needs ditch diggers too.
Yep.
Like he fucking throws some heat. He is. I would go. I'd say your MVP discussion is between those 3 and then Bill Murray on the outside looking in.
I agree. I agree with that.
And I think I might. I don't know, man.
And for me, it's really Chase and Dangerfield. Ted Knight's fantastic. It's not a slam on him. I just think Chase and Dangerfield just make the movie elevated.
I agree, but Ted Knight's there from start to finish. A lot of the lines that you love come from Ted Knight.
Yeah.
I think he's right there with him.
I'm not. I mean, we're just arguing greatness now.
Yeah.
So let's take a step back and maybe talk about some nitpicks, if you will, about the movie.
We will do nitpicks. Okay. I want you to say right now, the MVP of the movie, you got Ty Webb.
Yeah.
I've got Rodney Dangerfield.
I'm happy about that. I'm happy we disagree.
I got Rodney Dangerfield, and I might put Ted Knight second. I just love Ted Knight in this movie. I said what I said about Rodney Dangerfield, but it truly doesn't work if Ted Knight isn't great in his role too.
Do you like Back to School?
It's fine.
I think it's very funny.
It's fine. It's fine.
Is it just too much, Rodney, or is it?
I think I watched it once in the 80s, and that was about it. So it never really went back to it like I went back to this one. But yeah, I can't think of a sporting year, a baseball year where you would have 3 like Hall of Fame seasons competing for MVP. But that's what you have here. Imagine.
Well, I think of it like the New York outfield, right? You have Willie Mays, Duke Snyder, and Mickey Mantle, all in the same city, all playing the same position.
Not bad. That's not bad at all. But yeah, they all work so perfectly together, and I love this movie. Now, you want to nitpick?
A little bit. I guess not even nitpick. I just want to kind of get your opinion on some things. So I think Michael O'Keefe as Danny Noonan does a great job. He never gets in the way. He acts very naturally. His scenes with Ty Webb are hysterical. You know, you do drugs, Danny.
Every day.
Good boy. Like, I mean, that's great. Like, but he plays it perfectly. It feels very real. You know, I don't want to keep talking about Caddyshack 2, but like compare that to like Jonathan Silverman in Caddyshack 2, where everything feels
well. They
forced.
downgraded every single character.
They did.
Yeah.
But it's so over the top where it's. I must imagine being Michael O'Keefe. He was 25 when he wasn't as young as he is in the film, but he's 25. And he's with these superstar comedians, like the funniest people in the world. And he never tries to outdo them. He just stays in his lane.
I think he's fine.
I think he's great.
I think he, as the character that everything revolves around, is good. The writing of all the other characters below that level is subpar. You don't really, the stereotypical his caddy nemesis, the guy with the Italian guy who can't swing a golf club and somehow is, and then the bizarre Irish girl he gets pregnant.
Yeah, Maggie. Yeah, that
just comes out of nowhere. Like there's not a real story to Danny Noonan, even though he is the story of the movie.
Right.
So, but I think in his role and what he was asked to do, he was good. I think
Maggie's sort of that whole storyline.
The ointment, yeah.
That's kind of I guess if I had to
The
nitpick,
Barbara Hershey of this movie?
yeah, not even close. I mean, Barbara Hershey was such a wet blanket. Where at least this girl seems realistic but just almost doesn't. I say don't belong in the film, but just kind of gets in the way of some of the other things. Where like Lacey Underall, like she's fantastic.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
She?
I mean, my goodness.
Yeah. That was, I don't know about you, but Lacey Underall was one of the first on screen that I was like, okay.
Oh,
right.
yeah.
I get it.
Oh, yeah.
I get it. I understand where my life's going.
But she's very, like that scene with Chevy Chase and her, like that scene is hysterical. And she's very good at being kind of the straight man there with him.
Well,
and it works.
I would even go a little earlier in the movie, but when like Danny's trying to kiss up to, they're playing golf and Danny's trying to kiss up to Judge Smales and he does the world needs ditch diggers 2 line. She walks up right behind him like, nice try. Yeah. Yep. She gets what's going on. She digs at him. So yeah, she's good in the movie. My nitpicks, again, it's just the fact there's no real plot. So if you were to make this now and you put it in a film festival, you might not get it through the film festival because there's no real structure to it or plot to it. Now, if you want that or you need that, fine, whatever. You probably won't love this movie, but if you just are willing to sit back and let those guys cook and entertain you, then you love it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can't argue any of that. And like, how many times do comedies have great plots anyway?
Small other nitpick. Probably could have got a better golf course. Better looking golf course.
So this was
not a great looking golf course.
Shot in, I think, Davie, Florida is the town it's in. I've talked to someone who played on the course. He said the course in real life is fantastic. It's a beautiful course, one of the best ones he's ever played. This guy's played.
So what they do? They just shoot on the flat holes, on the ugly holes, or whatever.
I don't know. I don't know how that all works.
Shoot off season because the grass is kind of like brown, and
I actually thought the same course in Caddyshack too. I thought it looked better in Caddyshack too. So it might have just been like a
time of year,
time period thing too. Like this was shot in basically when I was born, 43 years ago in November of '79. So I mean, like, maybe golf courses were different back then.
Yeah, I'm sure they weren't as meticulous as they are now. And it was that's my. I don't have many nitpicks about this movie.
I don't either. I mean, I don't really have many nitpicks at all. This is going to get a 99 from me, from a 1 to 100. I don't have.
This is going to be the highest rated movie you've had on.
100 for Field of Dreams, but.
Okay. It's going to get a big rating for me. I'm not finished with it, though.
Okay.
You already gave it your rating.
I did.
All right. Well, let me dive into this.
Okay.
I have the best scenes in the movie.
Okay.
I wrote the dinner party scene. So that is, again, he's gotten to Al Trebek, Rodney Dangerfield has gotten to the club. Nobody really likes him. And he shows up at this hoity-toity dinner party and everybody's being fancy and everything. And he's just absolutely wrecking everybody. And he's just dealing out jokes and everything, and just it's I don't know, like 4 minutes long, 5 minutes long, maybe longer than that. But,
I don't think any of the scenes in the movie are that long.
Well, it's kind of tricky to come up with scenes for this movie.
It really does,
because they're rapid fire scenes, and they're just all right. We're gonna set up. Well, some scenes are one joke. They'll set it up, have one joke, and move on to the next scene. Or
really move on to the next joke. I feel like it's more joke based than scene based. Comedy was the preeminent.
The scene that starts with Bill Murray hitting the flowers, I got Cinderella story into him being the caddy for the guy that gets electrocuted. That's just funny.
Oh, when he says Cinderella boy, that kills me every time.
And then you've got the scene with, and they wrote this at the end, I think, and put it in because they got to the end and they were like, we don't have a scene with Bill Murray and Chevy Chase, and they just go back and forth. And that's one of my favorite quotes. We got a pool and a pond. Pond be good for you.
You're stealing all of my top 5 quotes.
All right. Well, I'm sorry, but okay. And then the first golf outing, actually, when Al Trebek gets there and Smales and them are playing golf, and that's when you kind of set the scene of who all's the bad guy, who all's the good guy.
Yeah.
But again, it's not really. I set out to write 5 scenes. It's not really a scene-to-scene movie. It's a joke-to-joke movie. That's an astute observation by you.
Thank you. I will say the scene with Chevy Chase and Bill Murray in Carl's home, if you will, is my favorite comedy scene in any movie in history. I think that's the funniest 2.5 minutes you'll ever find in a movie.
When the shotgun, it's fun.
Cannonball.
It's like cannonball. Yeah,
it's all of it is just perfect. Like it's so funny. Like to me, everything about that is hysterical. I love how Chevy Chase is constantly shitting on Bill Murray's horrible house
right in front of him, and he's just
like all of it is great. Like do you want to sit down? He's like, no, I don't want to get anything on me. Like it's all of it's just perfect. It's just hysterical. The whole thing is so funny. It's so wonderful. I'm so thankful that Harold Ramis realized what was happening, and they said him, Chevy, and Bill Murray all went out for dinner and then did the scene the next day. Like they wrote that in a matter of hours.
I was going to ask you, so you obviously know this. Did they write that scene, or they just turned the cameras on?
A little both. Okay. They wrote it over dinner, and then they shot it and kind of just had fun with it.
I know a little bit about this, but not much. But Chevy Chase and Bill Murray were cool then, or they weren't cool then?
They were cool then. They hated it. So what happened was Chevy Chase was on SNL the first season.
Right, and it became too big for the show.
And he didn't sign a performer contract, which is typically 5 years. He signed a writer's contract, which is only 1 year. So after the year was up, he was getting all his movie deals, and he was free to go. The other ones had to stay.
But then he went out, and the movies he made were not good for a few years.
Yeah, they were. I mean, there was someone like Goldie Hawn, like rom-com type things. They did okay. But Bill Murray took Chevy Chase's place. When Chevy Chase came over to host, they got into a fist fight. And they got in a huge fight, and Chevy Chase made fun of Bill Murray's skin, said, what is, is the moon landing? What's going on with the craters in your face? And then Bill Murray called Chevy a medium talent. And that was, and they got, right before Chevy's going to do his monologue, they got into a fist fight.
That's also an outrageous thing to say.
Yes, it is.
But
after that, they patched things up. I don't think they were ever best friends, but they were able to do this movie together.
Is this movie the first example of two SNL guys taking over the movie world?
No.
Had it already happened?
Blues Brothers
had already happened?
Had already come out, I think.
It didn't beat about much.
I think it both came out in 80.
Right, but this might have come out first, huh?
I'd have to check. Yeah, that'd be like almost a toss-up. We both came out in 80.
Aykroyd and Belushi.
I mean, by 1980, they were all such huge stars. Yeah. So, I mean, Bill Murray had already done, oh my God, what's that?
Stripes?
No, the one before that. It's not Meatballs, is it? Is that what it is?
Meatballs,
yes. Yeah. He did that already. Chevy had already done some movies. I said, Belushi and Aykroyd.
But this was the first huge movie for Chevy, I think. Huge.
First huge comedy win. I think some of the movies did better box office wise. This is the one that stays with us, though.
Yeah. It's a delightful movie. So what I wrote down was the dinner party. Yeah, that's my scenes. My 5 best lines.
Okay.
You wrote down your 5 best lines?
I did. Let me pull it up here. Yes.
I guess. All right.
Okay.
I'll go first.
Okay.
Oh, this is the worst looking hat I ever saw. You buy a hat like this, you get a free bowl of soup. Now that doesn't sound like a great line, but the way he delivers it and Smale's sitting there in that hat, I don't know, man. I love that line so much.
It's the line after that. It's the funniest.
What?
Oh, looks good on you though.
Looks good on you though.
Yeah, that's the part, right?
The way he says it. Yeah, looks good on you though.
By 5 we already said, but we have a pond and a pool. A pond to be good for you.
Yes.
I mean, that's great.
Okay, well, I'll just go ahead and cancel that. We have a pool and a pond. Pond be good for you. It makes me laugh every single time.
Yes. That's your number 4?
That's my number 4.
Okay. My number 4 is, we already said it. Oh, this is your wife, lovely lady. Hey, baby, you must have been something before electricity.
What a thing to say. What a thing to say to a woman.
And her face is like she's horrified.
My number 3. They got restrictions. I love this line so much. They got restrictions, Wang, so don't tell them you're Jewish.
Oh. That's great.
They got restrictions, Wang. Don't tell them you're Jewish.
And his face is just confusion.
All right, there you
go. This is your place, Carl? Yeah, what do you think? It's really, really awful. It's just great. I mean, just to go into somebody's house and shit all over it is fantastic. And he was concerned when he said it too. He almost felt bad for Carl that he lived there.
I have a tie for a second because I took a cop out here. I said Rodney's an entire cavalcade of one-liners at the dinner party, which I won't just rattle off here. But then also, when Judge Smales is trying to get him to play golf, he's pretty good, and I'm no slouch myself. Don't sell yourself short, Judge. You're a tremendous slouch.
That's right.
That's just a great line. And then
great delivery. I mean, Chevy's
unbelievable. Go ahead.
All right, my number 2. This is a classic. On your deathbed, you receive total. I was told you received total consciousness, so I got that going for me.
That's right. So there's our first. Is that our first non-Ty Webb, non-Al Chervick line?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
My number 1 is a Ty Webb line.
Okay, mine is as well.
Is it the same thing?
I don't know. It might be.
My uncle says you have a screw loose. Oh, your uncle molests collies.
That's right. That's
I
great.
just love that so much. The way he says it, so bang. Oh, your uncle molests collies.
Yeah, he says it like
like he's saying, I'll have a sandwich.
It's not like a hurtful thing. He's like a fact.
Right. Your uncle molests
mine's in the
collies.
same scene. I feel like $100, which I just love the idea of that. It's such a strange thing to say. He says it out of nowhere. It doesn't really mean anything.
And I also love the line you already said, but you do drugs, Danny? Every day.
Good boy.
Is it good boy or attaboy?
I think it was Good Boy, right?
Maybe.
But the scene with him and Lace, that is just so bizarre. The whole thing is great. This movie is about as funny as you can get. It's especially amazing considering it came out in 1980. Like, a lot of things happen in 1980
We kind of need to laugh in 1980, right?
Oh yeah.
We were coming off a couple of years of
energy crisis.
yeah.
I mean,
the hostage thing was going on.
It was going on at that very time.
Yeah.
I mean, that is why comedies worked. We talked about Airplane,
Yeah.
Blues Brothers, this. You wonder if that is. But if you watch a sitcom in 1980, it feels like you're in like a weird time capsule.
Yeah.
Nothing feels right.
It doesn't. Everything looks a little more dated than
And
this.
the comedy's very corny and weird and set up. And everything is like telegraphed a million miles away. Where things will get you when you least expect it.
Well, Cheers and I know it's problematic now. Cheers and Cosby Show hadn't yet saved sitcoms.
Right. They were 2 or 3 years apart from
But
coming
I would
out.
argue Airplane and this one probably set the tone for movie comedies for 40 years.
I mean, Animal House, people say, was kind of the first.
That's fair enough. Fair enough. But the 1-2 punch of these two in 1980 certainly took Animal House's lead and knocked it out
Oh,
of the
yeah.
park.
I think about like Chevy Chase and Bill Murray, how it really kind of, and even Rodney Dangerfield, it really just elevated them to becoming top billed movie stars.
So let's I just want to, before we move on to the bad one.
Okay.
Let's break down these 3 actors very quickly.
Okay.
Rodney Dangerfield.
Yeah.
Is, I don't know how, you a big Johnny Carson guy?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I am.
Fuck you, man. I did not know that. Okay.
I did not know that.
I love Johnny Carson. He's
Me
my
too.
favorite entertainer that ever lived.
Brilliant.
I love him. And I watch clips of his at night when I'm trying to wind down, I watch a lot of Carson clips.
Mhm.
And when Rodney Dangerfield would show up in that seat and just start and ripping off his act, sometimes his act doesn't work and he'll have a joke that doesn't work, but God, Rodney Dangerfield is so goddamn funny. So goddamn funny. But he wasn't a movie star until probably this, and then he had a couple more after this.
Back to school, yeah.
Yeah, Back to School. But Back to School was 7 years later? 6 years later?
Yeah, 6 years later, I think.
6 years later, and then but Rodney Dangerfield kind of sets the template for his next decade right here.
Yes.
But then Bill Murray and Chevy Chase
Mhm.
on the all-time pantheon of comedic actors. I'd say both have a part in the discussion. Which one ranks higher? I think most people would say Bill Murray,
Yeah, I would.
but I think people also don't give Chevy Chase the love he deserves.
Completely agree on both counts.
I think Chevy Chase is very underrated. He is when he is at his best, I think he has no peer. Like, he's that good. Like, I think Jim Carrey, maybe early 90s, reached that. There have been other guys that have reached that for a moment. But boy, Chevy Chase, when he has got it going. Bill Murray, I would say movie to movie, picture to picture, show to show, is consistent and always pretty good.
Oh, I disagree with that. Chevy?
I said Bill Murray.
Bill Murray. Oh.
Bill Murray has a consistency. Chevy Chase doesn't have the consistency.
Bill Murray changed. He did a 180. He's things like in the 90s and or 2000s. He stopped being kind of the guy you saw in Meatballs or this, a wacky, and he became much more introspective.
But I think he had already changed because
Lost in Translation is very different than this. Like his role.
I think he gradually changed because Scrooge, he's just a wise ass.
Yes.
And then Groundhog Day, he's just a wise ass.
Right.
What About Bob is a complete departure from anything.
Yeah.
And not a great movie.
The less said about that, the
But
better
I
the movie.
don't believe that he just changed in the 2000s. Like he goes from slapstick into more
Smart ass, but then becomes like this quieter, like a Rushmore and Lost in Translation guy.
Yeah.
And now he's been half canceled.
Well, everybody's canceled.
Not a great guy to have on set, I guess. But neither was Chevy Chase, I guess.
Listen. I think Chevy Chase to me is like Bo Jackson. Bo Jackson in the late 80s was with Michael Jordan, Mike Tyson was one of the 3 most famous athletes we had.
Yeah.
His career got cut short due to injury, but when he was on his game, he was one of the biggest guys ever. I think Chevy Chase has got that. There was a time where Chevy Chase was his fastball was 100 miles an hour, and it was faster than everybody else's. Bill Murray, though, body of work, consistency film to film is high.
Yeah. Yeah, Bill Murray in fact, this isn't even my favorite Bill Murray movie. My favorite Bill Murray movie is Groundhog Day.
Well, if we're just being honest, this probably isn't my favorite Chevy Chase movie. I know it's a basic bitch thing, but Christmas Vacation just means so much. I love Christmas Vacation.
Very funny.
So, what are Chevy Chase's big roles? It's Fletch,
and
it's the vacation movies.
And then you have his work in SNL. See, for me, the thing that sets Bill Murray apart for me was the last season he was on SNL. What happened was Aykroyd and Belushi left to become movie stars. So it was just, the cast was 5 people: Garrett Morris, Chevy Chase, Lorraine Newman, Gilda Radner, and I'm forgetting Jane Curtin. So it was just those 5. So Bill Murray had to play every white guy for an entire season of SNL, and he did it. It was incredible. He's in every single scene. If you watch, they're on DVD. You can see the whole season. It's amazing. It's the most impressive thing I've ever seen a comedian do. It's just that he's in every single scene, and he pulls it off every single time.
It's a shame that my kids right now are growing up with an SNL that isn't the springboard to what it was. I guess it still can be. There have been guys that have springboarded off of it. Andy Samberg springboarded. Bill Hader springboarded. But back then, it was a springboard to super fucking stardom. And did that end with Will Ferrell? Was he the last one that used it to become to go from SNL stage, and the next time he releases a movie, he goes in the stratosphere?
Yeah, because you look at who
Bill Murray did it, Chevy Chase did it, Eddie Murphy did it.
Oh, I mean, Belushi did it.
For
a short time.
I would say Aykroyd
did it. Ghostbusters was huge.
Billy Crystal, does he count?
No, he's already a star when he was SNL.
Yeah.
I wouldn't count him. And if you want to count Sandler, I think you have to. He's
Farley.
And you have even
and then it even launched mediocre guys like Spade. Mike Myers it launched.
Mike Myers
mediocre.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
it was a launching pad. You think of some of the bigger stars in the last 20 years. Kristen Wiig, I love Bill Hader, but they're not movie stars.
No.
Kate McKinnon, I don't think she's particularly great, but she's not a movie star.
And in fairness to those guys, entertainment has changed.
Right, that's the other thing too.
Entertainment has changed. Like Samberg in the 80s probably would have become a big movie star.
Yeah, it's funny though. Pete Davidson is very famous for 2023 though, where
famous for being famous. Too.
Yes,
yeah.
That's almost like more valuable nowadays than
making
a comedy
movies.
for like Hulu or something.
All right, so I had best scenes. I gave it to you. Our lines we did. MVP. You settled on.
I like that we.
You know what? I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do it. I think Ted Knight's MVP. I think in a movie with Rodney Dangerfield and a movie with Chevy Chase, Ted Knight is the one because it would be something if his character or if he were the sponge that took all the jokes from Chevy Chase and Al Czervik. It would be one thing, but he dishes it out as good as he takes it in this movie, and his anger is good. His jokes are good when he's real proud of himself. It's just funny. His speech when he's christening the boat. And he laughs. I love everything about him.
He's great. He was on Mary Tyler Moore for years, kind of in a similar role to some extent. It was kind of the asshole of that show, but obviously much bigger heart than Judge Smails has. And then he did Too Close for Comfort, which you probably saw when you were a kid.
No, I don't think I ever saw that.
It was a sitcom. Him and his wife had like adult daughters, and he was a cartoonist. And but it was pretty good. But then he died very young. Well, not very. 62, I think. When he died.
Behind the scenes of this movie, like it was kind of problems with him and the rest of them. Like he was this buttoned up movie star that's used to doing movies and acting a certain way, and the others are just living
very different styles,
throwing it out in Florida and doing cocaine and walking on the set and stuff like that.
Yeah, this couldn't have been an easy movie. I think he went from professionals of a Mary Tyler Moore set and to in complete chaos. Yeah. But the fact that you have different comedy styles is what makes this work. Bill Murray and Chevy Chase are different comedians. Rodney Dangerfield is his own comedian. And then you have kind of that old school comedy of Ted Knight.
Yeah.
But you get the best of all those worlds. And that's what makes this feel, every scene is so great because you're getting a refreshing new kind of comedy with each of these 4 leads.
All right. There's Caddyshack. And
what do you give it, 1 to 100?
I go lower than you. I gave Major League a 99 last week.
You gave it a 96, I believe.
I gave it a 99, didn't I?
No. You can revise it if you want. But
I gave it a 99 because of Ricky Vaughn's number.
Okay, I don't remember that, but I have it down.
That's what I said.
Okay, all right, I'll rephrase.
Go ahead and look.
I know.
Look
I
at your fucking list.
I have the list. I put the list out. I have it as a 96. I just did the list.
I gave it a 99 for
That's fine. I went back and listened to it. It said 96.
I said Ricky Vaughn's number.
All right. I have you. I'm sorry. I have it as a. You gave it as 90. Major League?
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't done it yet. I'm sorry. I hadn't put it in there yet. Okay, I'm sorry.
You're so stupid.
I forgot. I'm always we're a week back.
What did I get Field of Dreams?
That I have. 97. And you gave Hoosiers a 97.
Well, these are good movies. There's a reason they're high.
This you've already had 5 movies that have been 90 or above.
95.
This is your 6th 90 plus movie.
We're doing good movies. Like we haven't gotten to the point.
By comparison, I've had 3.
But we haven't gotten to the point where we're not doing good movies.
No. Well, we do some bad. We do a bad movie.
Of course, sure. but the good ones to juxtapose are some of the most iconic sports movies ever.
I know.
So it's not like we started with The Fan.
Right.
We didn't start with something. You know, we start with whatever, The Way Back by Ben Affleck,
which I like a lot. But okay,
fine.
Yeah, it's very good.
This is Caddyshack.
All right.
Of course, you give that over a 90.
I love it. 99.
Wait, hold on, time.
Oh, yeah.
You gave Hoosiers somewhere in the 80s, right? And I still remember that was still that's wrong. That's low.
Yeah, I'm sour on it. I gave Hoosiers an 83.
I
gave Friday Night Lights an 80.
Which is stupid.
It's not stupid. I explained why. We did a whole show about it.
You gave Moneyball 98. 96. You gave Field of Dreams 99. 100. You gave this a 99.
Yeah. I gave Major League. I forget what I gave it. I'll have to go back and watch.
I thought you were in the 90s on that one too.
I think that's close. 88 maybe, somewhere in there.
All right. Speaking of 88, that's when Caddyshack 2.
Back to the Shack.
Caddyshack 2.
This is a movie they literally wrote the catchphrase for before the movie came out. That's a fact.
I need to go backwards before we go forwards. Because we did not mention...
The Shack is back. I'm sorry.
We did not mention 2 key things about the first movie.
Okay.
The gopher.
Yes.
Which is the thing that Bill Murray chases all over through the movie. And it's a little too cutesy but it's fine. It's a wink and nod. Like okay, it's fine. But then we didn't mention the Kenny Loggins music,
which is great.
Kenny Loggins. I don't think when you think of Kenny Loggins music in movies, you go to Caddyshack because you think of probably Footloose first.
Yes,
but I'm All Right and Caddyshack is fantastic.
So good.
So those 2 things. Now, the gopher in Caddyshack it gives Bill Murray's character a foil and something to do and all that, and it's a scene breaker and it's a little comedic thing. Like they open Caddyshack 2 with, I believe, another Kenny Loggins song, which was actually a hit song despite being attached to this movie. It got the size number 8.
Nobody's Fool.
Nobody's Fool. Not a bad song.
No.
And they open it by the gopher going all over the golf course, and you see his little bump as he goes underground, and then at the end of the song, what does he take in it's not the Coke, the root beer that he takes in. He takes in something and then inhales it or smokes a cigarette, does something. But and then he says something.
I thought it was the root beer because
the root beer is later.
The whole credit sequence is Jonathan Silverman running to get this girl a soda.
He takes a root beer, burps, and then he's like, I'm ready to, what did he say? I don't remember what he said. But he said something.
Yes, he says a word, yeah.
Did you say, I'm all right?
You might say, like, all right, yeah.
All right, yeah. He says a word.
Yes, he speaks.
And the gopher in this one is bigger and more cartoonish.
Yes.
And has expressions on his face and is like an actual character in the movie. And the second you see that, you're like, well, this ain't Caddyshack. They took a fun little thing.
And made it like a focal point.
Yeah. And that's how you open up Caddyshack 2. Now, to talk Caddyshack 2, I think you start in one place. You start with the cast.
Oh.
And you start
which should be. Yeah.
You start with who's not there. Everything.
Well, no one's there.
Well, Chevy Chase is.
Yeah, and the gopher.
The gopher is there, and Chevy Chase's Ty Webb is. And if you get excited about that, don't. Because he's in it for about 15 minutes, and he's clearly mailing it in.
Oh, it's painful.
But Chevy Chase is there. And that's it. Bill Murray, gone. Replaced by Dan Aykroyd. Ted Knight, gone. Replaced by Robert Stack, host of Unsolved Mysteries.
Yes.
The Danny Noonan character, what did you say his name was? Michael
O'Keefe.
Gone. Replaced by Jonathan Silverman.
Yes.
The Lacey Underall character is played by a young. It's really a different.
Well,
character.
they don't really have a Lacey Underall character.
Yeah, I guess they don't. But The Al Shervick character, played by Rodney Dangerfield, is now the focal point of the movie.
He's the lead. He's the whole movie.
His name is Jack Hartoonian.
Yes.
He is played by Jackie Mason.
Yeah.
And Chris Klemmer, I'm going to ask you a question right now.
Sure. I'll do my best.
Is there a bigger downgrade in movie history than going from Rodney Dangerfield to Jackie Mason?
Maybe.
Not Jackie Mason.
Yes.
Is it Jackie Mason?
Yes, it is.
What was the name of the Jackie Childs on
Jackie Childs with Seinfeld.
Yeah. So there was a Clarence Mason was the WWE lawyer at the same time that was a ripoff of Jackie Childs.
Okay, which is a ripoff of Johnny Cochran.
Correct. Anyway, so Jackie Mason. Is
Yes.
there a bigger downgrade ever than Rodney Dangerfield to Jackie Mason?
Maybe Ted Knight to Robert Stack.
Fair enough. And maybe Bill Murray to this version of Dan Aykroyd.
Oh God, it's brutal.
So, but let's start there.
No, the Jackie Mason thing is so painful though.
Jackie Mason, the movie is 80% him.
It revolves entirely around him.
It's 80% him, and he's trying to do Rodney Dangerfield's character. He's just doing it very, very, very poorly and unlikably and unfunnily. I don't know if he says a thing in this movie that's funny. Like he's just throwing out these one-liners that are not funny at all. At all. God damn it, this movie pissed me off.
Yeah, so when the movie was being developed, Rodney Dangerfield really wanted to do it. He saw they offered him $7 million to do it, which in 1988 is a lot of money.
Yeah.
He agreed. During the script writing process, he realized how bad this was, and he backed out.
Oh, my God.
And
yeah.
they moved, and when the director took the job, he didn't know that. He thought Rodney Dangerfield was still attached. Rodney Dangerfield backs out. He ends up actually suing Warner Brothers, becomes a thing. And they end up desperate, and they get Jackie Mason.
It's a minor miracle Chevy Chase made it to this movie.
Well, they gave him a lot of money too. He got well over $1 million for a part that he was there for like a few days to do. He's wearing, you can even notice he's wearing the same clothes over and over again in the movie. He has this like striped blazer thing because he probably just was there for that day. Like he didn't even change costume.
Yeah, I'm the same age as you. Again, I'm 44. You're 43. Jackie Mason is certainly never a comedian that ever entertained me. I'm sure he's got redeeming qualities somewhere in his career. I can't think of anything.
If you look, Jackie Mason and Rodney Dangerfield aren't as dissimilar on paper as you might think. They both have kind of self-deprecating at times, like one-liners. It's very much that like Henny Youngman, Take My Wife Please kind of comedy.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, whenever Rodney does it, it feels fresh, it feels modern, it feels young in a way. When Jackie Mason does it, I feel like I'm in a 1960s, like upstate New York, like steakhouse.
Feels like he's doing a Rodney Dangerfield impression as well.
It's just that style of comedy. I said that it's a Henny Youngman. It's very old, outdated. But when Rodney did it, because of his energy, it just always felt effervescent. Jackie does it, it feels so outdated.
This movie feels outdated.
Oh.
Like his look feels outdated. Like so just to throw out the plot for you, he's a developer. He's a rich builder. And he wants to build low-income housing right next to Bushwood Country Club.
Right.
They don't want it. They're snobs. They say, don't do this. He says, I'm going to do it.
But wait, there's a reason that he might want to change his mind. He has a daughter.
His daughter is getting one of her friends is in Bushwood, and they hang out. And she wants him to join. He goes there. He ends up clashing with the Judge Smales of this one, who's Chandler Young, maybe. That's the character's name. He's played by Robert Stack.
Where he doesn't say one funny thing. He doesn't. I don't think
he doesn't attempt to say a funny thing. He's just kind of there as wallpaper on the backdrop of Jackie Mason dropping terrible jokes. I don't know, because Robert Stack, who was again this time. I saw that face. I thought Unsolved
Mysteries, of course.
And he was in Airplane, and he was fucking good in Airplane.
Yeah.
Like he's not an actor that is a good actor. He's a fine actor.
He's fine. Yeah,
he's fine. But I think he seems like a guy that got there and was like, well, this sucks. I'll just read my lines and get on out of here.
Honestly, I felt like he was in a different movie. I felt like he thought he was doing like a kind of a serious drama.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, this is a comedy, Rob.
So yeah, it's got. They didn't bother to write a new story, really. It's really just a pompous outsider. Used to be Rodney Dangerfield, now it's Jackie Mason.
Right.
He runs afoul of the club leader.
Yep.
It was Ted Knight, now it's Robert Stack. They end up getting in a golf match at the end.
And they team up with the good guy teams up with Ty Webb.
Right.
And they win.
So that's exactly what happens. They run it back.
Oh, and the cat even makes the last shot.
And they just run it back in the worst fashion possible.
Yes.
I don't know what it is, but so Jackie Mason gets pissed at them. They get pissed at him. They start to ruin his business. They turn off the electricity and they use all their connections to fuck him. And he buys the club from Ty Webb.
Right.
Which we find out Ty Webb just owns Bushwood. Okay.
Yes, he owns 50-something% 53%.
53.
And he just sells it.
Just in a matter of a 5-minute conversation.
Yes.
So he sells it, and then Jackie Mason owns it, and he turns it into this mini golf extravaganza explosion, which just pisses me off every time I see it on screen.
Why would Ty, the whole thing, that would...
Because Ty Webb enjoys hanging out at Bushwood.
Right.
Because he's there he's been there 8 years.
Yes, at least, right.
He's been there 8 years.
And he loves golf. We know that from the very first scene of...
Yeah.
Of the original Caddyshack.
We haven't mentioned one character there wasn't a lawyer character in the first one, but Randy Quaid. Young Randy Quaid plays the lawyer.
He's not that young. I mean, this is 8 years after Vacation.
Younger than he is now.
6 years after Vacation. Yeah, he is, this character, I don't know if I blame him. It's so bizarrely written. He's all over the place. He's supposed to be kind of like this guy who's kind of unhinged and could be violent anytime, but he just comes off as someone you just never know what he's going to... It's not funny because you don't know what direction he's going in.
Now I want to set you up. Let's go ahead and have this conversation because I know who you're going to say, and I want you to go off on him.
Okay.
Least valuable player for this bad movie.
Least valuable player?
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be Dan Aykroyd. It's got to be Dan Aykroyd because he has... the character is a hitman. So Robert Stack at some point wants Jackie Mason to die.
Wants to kill him.
Which is quite a stretch. That's a big reach.
Quite a leap from a disagreement at a golf course.
It gets to the point where Dan Aykroyd blows up what he thinks is Jackie Mason's car. He thought he was murdering him.
Right.
And it's not funny. It's just that's weird and violent.
Yeah. And then in the last game, he's literally taking sniper positions around the golf course with a rifle.
Yes.
And when Robert Stack does this, he's supposed to shoot him in the head.
Yes.
So, we're now doing murder for hire in Caddyshack.
There's a whole scene, I think it's the worst scene in the movie, worst scene maybe in movie history, where Robert Stack tries to get Dan Aykroyd to agree to becoming the hitman. It is just horrendous.
Tell him about Dan Aykroyd's accent.
Yeah. I don't even know how I can't imitate it. I wouldn't dare. It's like a weird nasally wheeze that he has, and I guess he modeled it
He's
after.
talking like this the whole time for some reason. Why is he talking like this?
That's not bad. Yeah. And I guess he was doing it as a Oliver North impression.
I think he was doing it so people wouldn't realize it was Dan Aykroyd in the shitty movie.
I think it was to try to make this thing funny at all. I think he probably saw the script and was like, I have to do something crazy. I don't know. The producers begged him to stop. He wouldn't. Director didn't have a problem with it, but the producers were like, you can't do that. It's distracting and weird. He's like, no, I'm doing this.
I guess in 1988, Dan Aykroyd had a little bit of stroke too.
Why did he do this?
I don't know.
I mean, he did go, he was still a big star.
I understand why they went and got him because they needed a Bill Murray replacement. And
I understand why they signed him.
If you need a Bill Murray replacement, you go get Dan Aykroyd. That makes sense.
That's fine. This isn't 1998. This is 1988.
He was also kind of doing...
He was a huge star.
Kind of doing a Bill Murray impression because Bill Murray in the first one, his voice, he affects his voice a little bit, right? Not to this level.
He does, but it's like... It's not just the voice. It's also the character is a... none of this makes any sense.
An incompetent murderer.
Yes.
Who... I don't think is in the military, but
and you meet him, he's in a food truck that's never explained. Why is he in a food truck? Do you remember him cooking anything? I don't understand where any of that comes from.
It's a badly written character and a badly played part in a bad movie.
So Harold Ramis is credited as a writer here. He did not have anything to do with the final script you see here. He tried to get his name off. Warner Brothers begged him and I think paid him to keep his name on. They said if he stays on, if he leaves, it'll get in the press. It would ruin the movie. So he stayed on.
I think that would have been best for everybody involved.
If he
had left and it ruined the movie and they didn't get it made.
Oh, so the director tried to have that happen. So when the director was finally told, "Hey, look, Dangerfield's out. We got Mason." The director's like, "Well, maybe we should just go back. Let's just stop for a second. Time out. Let's go rewrite this script. Let's make this work." And he was told that this is already a go for next summer. And you don't want to make a go movie a development movie. Yeah. In other words, you don't want to take a step back. You've already been greenlit for the summer. It's what every movie wants. It's your dream. But it was a horrible nightmare.
My least valuable player, it is Jackie Mason. It just cannot be put into words how awful a Jackie Mason-centered movie as Caddyshack 2 is. He is trying to be Rodney Dangerfield. He's trying to be funny. I can barely understand the words that are coming out of his mouth sometimes. It's just bad. Like, he is not a likable on-screen presence. He is not a charismatic on-screen presence. He is not somebody that in Caddyshack, you have these characters that are just fireworks going off in the sky, and he's just a dud. Like there's nothing, not one time on the screen. Oh, and Diane Cannon is in this movie, right?
Yeah.
And she plays his love interest, who falls in love with him basically right when she meets him.
Yes.
And there's no actual love story.
No.
It's just the next scene after they meet, they're together. And Diane Cannon, beautiful, beautiful woman.
Yes.
Like the scene where they dance at the dinner party. They tried to run the dinner party back. When him dancing with her is just, it gives me secondhand embarrassment. This whole movie gives me secondhand embarrassment.
It's so bizarre. And she spends the whole movie not really in love with him, but just amused by him. She's just laughing hysterically at everything
and he's not saying anything funny.
No. And he's very low energy. That's kind of his thing. He was on an ABC show called Chicken Soup with Lynn Redgrave back in the late 80s. And it didn't work, surprising, because you said he's not a good on-screen presence. You're not wrong. And it just doesn't work. He would later on in the 90s, he would do a Broadway, like a one-man show, and that worked. I think he works better on the stage. On the screen, it just doesn't pop. Like Rodney pops.
Rodney pops, yes.
This is just, it feels so muted and weird. Okay, I have a question for you, a theory for you. Okay, this is one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
Yeah.
You agree. Not the worst I've ever seen, but one of the worst. You said it's the worst you've ever seen. Let's say this movie was simply revolved around the young people. So like it's China Phillips, the girl from Hope and Gloria, which is a bad 90s sitcom.
Yeah.
It's basically kind of like the rich elite and I know that she's supposed to be rich too, but is more middle class attitude. And it's her just trying to fit in with these rich people. If it was just about teenagers, it would be a very bad movie, but would you hate it as much?
No, because I think there's, like, they're in the opening scene.
Right. So this first, like, 10 minutes.
And then, like, the daughter, I don't even remember, Kate's her name?
I forget. I think her real name is
I don't
Jessica
know what her
Lundy.
real name is, but Kate Hartunian's the character's name. She's fine.
She's fine.
She's fine. The other, the evil rich girl, she's fine.
China Phillips, by the way, from Wilson Phillips.
Is that who that is? The lawyer, the young lawyer who is Robert Stack's son, he's fine.
He's fine.
Silverman is fine. Like, the young people are fine.
Yeah, Silverman's always trying to do too much.
But everybody who is paid to carry the movie is awful.
But what if it was just about those four? It would be a bad movie.
It's better than it is now.
I agree.
Because what you just proposed gives me 80% less Jackie Mason. The movie improved immediately just now.
You get rid of Jackie Mason, you get 0 Randy Quaid, which makes it better. You get 0 Dan Aykroyd, which makes it better. I can't believe him saying, like I think Dan Aykroyd.
Take away, Dan Aykroyd, who's a great. I mean, I can't remember many movies where I'd say take Dan Aykroyd away is pretty good.
In a 1980s comedy?
Yeah.
Like when he's at his peak? Like, what do we do? This was a year before Ghostbusters 2.
Well, let's have the Aykroyd conversation.
Okay.
In the pantheon of 80s movie actors. So we already mentioned.
We're not talking about Saturday Night Live, because he was brilliant on Saturday Night Live.
Don't worry about Saturday Night Live.
Okay.
Just movie careers.
All right.
I think he's behind Chevy Chase.
Yes.
He's behind Murray.
Yes.
He's behind
Eddie Murphy.
And I know I'm going to mention some guys that aren't SNL, but he's behind John Candy, probably.
Oh, absolutely, for me.
He's behind Eddie Murphy. He's behind Steve Martin.
Yes. I don't think
probably on par with Martin Short.
Oh yeah, another guy. I think he's ahead of Martin Short. I mean, he did Ghostbusters.
So I would say he's the 7th or 8th best comedic actor of that decade. I'm sure I'm missing.
I'd put Paul Rubens ahead of him. Pee-wee.
Yeah, that's a different category.
Dan Aykroyd.
Obviously, Tom Hanks was in comedies in that decade too. So
he was Money Pit, Splash. I put Tom Hanks ahead of him. Big. Yeah. Dan Aykroyd, the movie star, doesn't hit for me the same as he did in SNL. Anywhere near. I love Ghostbusters, but I think he's the weakest character in Ghostbusters.
Yeah, is he the scientific one? He's the
that's Egon's the scientific one. Well, that's Harold Ramis, the director of this. He's more like into the supernatural stuff. He's more like the ghost hunter.
Yeah. I just want to pull up Dan Aykroyd's just his IMDb.
I mean, you have Blues Brothers, which came out in the 80s.
You know what?
Spies Like Us.
I'm gonna say something you're not gonna like.
Okay.
Never seen Blues Brothers.
It's okay. It has an amazing action sequence, some amazing car wrecks. It has a sequence where cars drive around in a mall. It's a wild movie. It's not a great movie, but it's fine. It's interesting. It's very strange.
Dan Aykroyd, 15 greatest films. That way I don't have to just go through his IMDb.
All right, we're talking about the best ones here. Okay.
So I just want to go.
By the way, nominated for an Academy Award.
For what?
Driving Miss Daisy.
Okay. So he was in 1941. Never saw it.
That's a Spielberg movie.
Spielberg
with
bomb, right?
Bomb, yeah.
Chaplin. Never saw
Which
it.
is very good. Robert Downey Jr. He plays he's playing a more serious role there though.
Let's see. Sneakers.
Which is a great cast. Robert Redford, Sidney Poitier, River Phoenix. The movie doesn't. It's a spy movie. It's fine.
He's in Neighbors. Never saw it.
That's the last movie he made with Belushi.
Wow. He's in The Coneheads, which I thought was awful.
That movie was terrible. The sketch was brilliant.
The movie was awful.
Yes,
Spies
terrible.
Like Us, not terrible.
It's all right. I haven't seen it since the 80s.
Fine.
It was fine.
It's
Remember it was fine.
Chase,
Yeah.
Dragnet, which I remember.
Which is not a good movie. I recently rewatched it. Tom Hanks again, but I don't think it's that
good.
good.
In Twilight Zone, the movie?
Yes, a small part.
He was in.
He's in kind of the intro.
I might cry just saying the title of this one. He was in My Girl.
Yeah.
But he was the dad. He was a supporting character.
We have yet to name very many roles where he's a comedic presence.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Gross Point Blank.
Which is brilliant. That is a great movie. He's not good in it, though.
Driving Miss Daisy.
Which is not a very bad Best Picture winner.
Trading Places.
Trading Places is okay. He's funny in it.
Blues Brothers.
He's very good in it.
What's his number one then? Oh, Ghostbusters. Yeah.
Ghostbusters. I think Ghostbusters.
So kind of
no Ghostbusters 2 on that list? That's
no,
okay.
it wasn't on the list.
So we didn't name that many.
Comparatively, comedy movie career compared to what you think he has.
I mean, I don't think he stacks up. He's not in that same tier to me.
No, I don't think
as
he
the
is.
Murphy, as
but
Murray,
again, coming out of SNL,
Chase.
he was, and then his movie career never really got there.
It's hard to say. I mean, he was nominated for an Oscar. He was in some very good movies.
He was also, and I don't think this is a good movie, but I thought he was good in it. Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, that goes the other way. Right, he was fine in it.
I thought he was like that movie was so overacted and stupid and dramatic, and I thought he was like decent in it. Whereas everybody else is just playing it to the hilt and going too far.
Yeah, he's fine in that.
Let's go back. Did we do LVP, least valuable player? Yes, we did. I did Jackie Mason. You did.
We have to do a trade, which I'm having a really hard time.
No, I think trade deadline already passed on this one. I can't think
of a way to make Caddyshack 1 better. Like,
there's nobody in the second one that should be in the first one. No. Maybe Diane Cannon, because she doesn't harm anything, but who do you trade her with?
But then what do you do?
You don't trade her for Lacey Hunter?
No!
So,
what if you traded China Phillips for the Irish girl, Maggie? But then, does that make any sense? Probably not. Because why would Danny...
It's almost what you have to do, though. Because you don't trade Jonathan Silverman for Danny Noonan's character.
No.
You don't trade any of the stars. You don't even trade Ty Webb back to you don't trade anything.
I think Maggie would make Caddyshack 2 a little bit more human, which is good. Grounded a little bit. And then China Phillips in that movie, I don't know.
The last thing I need is that bleeding Irish woman in Caddyshack 2. We already had enough bleeding in that movie. It's just when she comes on screen in Caddyshack and she's just talking and all that and crying and all that, it's like, nah, I don't need this.
Yeah.
It's a bad fucking movie. Let's see. Most ridiculous scene. What's the most ridiculous scene of this movie?
Oh, without question. To me, it's one of the worst scenes in movie history. It's the Robert Stack, Dan Aykroyd food truck scene.
That's bad. It's not my worst. My worst is the first time we really see Robert Stack and Jackie Mason clash is when, and I don't know when Bushwood became this. They're at the Equestrian Center of Bushwood. When did we get an Equestrian Center? But okay, let me just throw this to describe how ridiculous it is. Jackie Mason doesn't play golf.
Right.
Oh, what did you think about his technological gadgets for golf?
I mean, I get what they were going with.
It's so stupid.
It's just dumb. I mean, honestly, though, of my list of problems with this movie, it's probably pretty low. So the equestrian scene's horrible, though. Makes no sense.
So Robert Stack I'll say this also. Outside of at the end, it got worse when he tried to murder him. But for the first 60 minutes of the movie, Robert Stack's not a bad guy. He's kind of in the right for most of the movie.
I think the movie's trying to make a statement about revenge because it tries to paint Jack as going too far. It's like these guys are both going too far. Yeah. But then it kind of just veers off that again, though.
So the equestrian scene. So they go to the Equestrian Center at Bushwood. Jackie Mason doesn't play golf, has never presumably ridden a horse ever.
No.
But Diane Cannon, who met him about 5 minutes ago, invited him to come ride horses because that's what you do to people that you don't know. Robert Stack I guess, trots up on his horse, and he's got his full horse riding outfit, equestrian. And not only is it just an equestrian ring, it's got the jumps.
It's got jumps.
It's got jumps, and he's just running around, and he's jumping the horse over the thing. And he says, Jackie, get on. Well, Jackie's already on the horse. But he's like, hey, why don't you just do what I do? Jump these jumps. You've never ridden a horse before in your life. Jump these jumps with me. And that's what they do. They run around, and Jackie Mason's horse hilariously just bowls through them. And then at one point, the last scene, Robert Stack has fallen in the mud, and Jackie Mason's horse jumps over him and farts in his face.
Yes.
That's the comedy of this movie. I think that's the worst scene of the movie to me. It's just
it's also out of nowhere. Like, you could take that scene.
It's out of nowhere.
You could take that scene out of the movie completely, and it wouldn't change a thing. It wouldn't change anybody's motivations, anything.
At that point, where we're collectively 200 minutes into the Bushwood universe, and we learn there's just an equestrian center somewhere.
Yeah, we're like, yes, it is completely ridiculous. The entire So here's the difference. So like, it's a small thing, but like the jokes are earned in the original Caddyshack. Like, we know Carl must live in a shithole. Yeah. So then we see his shithole and we have Chevy respond to it. We never are. The horse equestrian thing just comes out of nowhere. And that's how this whole movie is, just like weird shots out of nowhere. Randy Quaid is a aggressive lawyer. Why would Jackie Mason, who's a billionaire, hire this guy?
Yeah.
How would Robert Stack find a hitman? Why would the hitman agree to it?
Yeah.
Like, all of it's very strange.
Yeah, Robert Stack is presumably a very connected guy, and he just like wanders into downtown, whatever city this is supposed to be in, and is like looking around, and the food truck pulls up, and he contracts a murder out of it.
Yes.
That's whatever. It's a bad fucking movie. What do you give it?
I gave Ed an 8.
Are you going to do what
I'm going to give this a 10.
Somebody walks in right now, puts 2 DVDs, pulls out a gun, says, watch one. I say, throw on Ed.
Yeah, I probably would too.
This gets a 5. I think this is
5.
A 5.
Wow.
There's nothing redeeming about this. There's zero redeeming about this movie.
So you texted me after you watched it, and you said, this is the worst movie I've ever seen. I think you said you want to quit the show.
I wanted to quit the show. Yeah. But listen, I want to quit all the time. Don't worry about it.
Right, yeah.
I think this is the worst movie I've ever seen. And knowing that, obviously, Ed is a bad movie. It's a bad movie.
I mean, Ed's terrible.
This is a bad movie. But this isn't. It's not like this is made that much better. And this was made by a major studio. Like, this is.
So was Ed.
Not this major, though? That was like New Line Cinemas or something?
No, I mean, Ed was a major. Ed also had a summer release as well, which is bizarre. This obviously was a much higher this was a movie.
This had expectations.
Yes.
This was in the middle, like when you in February, when you're reading Entertainment Weekly or People, and talk about the blockbuster
summer preview.
The summer preview.
This is one of the 5 movies you're going to talk about.
Arnold Schwarzenegger has a movie with Danny DeVito. Oh, look at that.
Bruce Willis has a
movie.
Yeah.
They're running Caddyshack 2 back.
Oh, great.
You're thinking about buying tickets to that right there.
Of course. Oh, Dan Aykroyd and Chevy Chase are in it? All right.
And this is what we got.
Yes.
Ed had no chance to ever be good. Ed had no business ever being good. This is a disaster on all levels.
Worst supporting actor this movie might be Chevy Chase's earring.
Where did that come from?
So distracting. Bizarre.
Also,
that character wouldn't have an earring.
Also, maybe I'm just a poor movie watcher. Did it show up about halfway through the movie, or was it there the whole time?
It was only there I think it was there the whole time, actually, but it was shinier in different scenes.
To me, it showed up later.
No, I saw it the whole time. I immediately saw it. I was drawn to it. I'm like, what is happening?
Why did Chevy Chase have an earring?
I don't know. I don't think Ty would have an earring. I don't understand any of it.
All right.
Also, I got to say, this movie, Ty Webb is one of my favorite comedic characters ever in any comedy. This kind of tainted a bit for me. So I had never seen Caddyshack 2. I realized watching it, I probably had seen bits and pieces on HBO when I was a kid, because some stuff did kind of have, I had some deja vu moments watching
I
it.
did too. When Randy Quaid did the hockey thing guarding the hole, I was like, the
last like 10 minutes, I'm like, I've seen this before. I felt like I've seen this. But this kind of, like, I made it feel like 8 years later, Ty Webb's kind of a sad guy. Like
Yeah.
he lives alone. He has an earring. He has this like sad blazer on, doesn't quite fit.
He's hanging around a bunch of old
he's
guys.
still in Bushwoods. Like it just seemed kind of pathetic. I'm like, this is what Ty Webb. Like Ty Webb, like yeah, he was a single bachelor, but he seemed really cool in the first Caddyshack.
But if you extrapolate it out, right? Like Ty Webb's still there. Danny Noonan's married with kids, having a successful life. Al Chervik is like living in Malibu.
Right.
Carl Spackler's even gotten his life together, but here's Ty Webb just still dicking around.
It bummed me out. It kind of tainted.
If there were any bright spots at all, I thought Chevy Chase had a couple lines that were vintage Ty Webb, just a couple here or there. Early though, you could tell the further they got in the movie, the more it deviated from whatever it was either supposed to be, or Chevy Chase just mailed it in. Just I'm not improv shit. I'm just go. Just fucking go. And in fact, the last game that he sets up, he welcomes them, gets them started, and he says, "All right, I'm gone." And he leaves. And it's the perfect. I was like, all right, he's probably want to do that the whole time.
Yes. Well, I guess he was difficult on set. The director, Alan Arkish, we should definitely mention his name, slander him a little bit. He said, all right, Chevy, how do you want to set this up? And Chevy's like, you're the director, you tell me.
All right, Alan Arkish, did he do anything else?
It's like made for TV movies, that kind of thing.
So this was his shot.
This was his big shot. Yes, this was his first major movie.
Is it his fault, or they gave him a stinker too, right?
Yeah, I couldn't win.
Yeah.
So Arkish says to Chase, all right, what ideas do you have? And Chase's like, well, you're the director, you tell me. A couple scenes later, Arkish is giving him direction, and Chase's like, what, I don't get any input? So he was just being an asshole to be an asshole. I guess when they showed him the final cut, Chase is like, well, I'll watch this when you put in the laugh track, and stormed out. But I don't hate that reaction by Chevy because he knew this was just
the money was already in the bank for Chevy, right?
Yeah.
So...
also,
he probably ran off, did Funny Farm, and then just moved on.
That's about right. That's about because the other time he's exactly right, which actually is a pretty good movie.
Not bad.
It's not bad.
And then I guess after Funny Farm, he probably did Christmas Vacation, and that got him back to being Chevy Chase for a little bit.
Well, not too long, because then he does Cops and Robertsons like right after that, right? Like they gets back the second it goes into 1990, it's all over.
Yeah. Is it? Does he never have anything in the 90s?
I think Christmas Vacation was either 89 or 90. Oh, then that's it. That's the end of it.
That's the end of it?
Yeah.
Wow. That's sad.
How long of a peak? I mean, comedians don't get peaks that long.
But if you ask me, Bill Murray has had a 30-year career.
Okay, he's the exception. Eddie Murphy, Mike Myers, Will Ferrell. Well, you get a 15-year run if you're lucky.
But Chevy Chase didn't even get the second life that Eddie Murphy did of like voiceovers and shit like that. He didn't get the second life.
He got to do Community, I guess.
And Eddie Murphy's had multiple comeback movies. He had,
Dreamgirls.
Nutty Professor was like 6 years after, or it was 8 years after Coming to America.
Right.
7 years after Harlem Nights. And it wasn't a good movie, but it was a big comeback for him.
I guess, but different audience.
And then Shrek. Shrek probably, I bet he made more money off
I bet you're right.
than he's made off anything.
Right. Yes.
So, Eddie Murphy had a hell of a career after his career.
Yeah, but I'm talking about when you're a comedy superstar.
I gotta look at Chevy Chase's eyes.
Even Jim Carrey, you get a 15-year run if you're lucky.
Yeah, and frankly,
and then it's over.
Will Ferrell, his run pretty much is
it's over. Yeah. Oh, it's been over for a decade now. But
what was his last? Was the other guys the end for him?
Yeah,
Chevy Chase movies. I think so. That was 2010.
And like Mike Myers, his career fell off. After like a 10-year run. 15 if you count SNL.
But Mike Myers is a little different, I think. Mike Myers his career was built so much on one franchise that he created.
Yeah, I guess you're right. He didn't do as much. You're right.
He was handed the Wayne's World franchise, which I guess that was his character. But
I would say handed. He wrote.
He was handed that off SNL.
Yep.
And then he wrote Austin Powers.
Right.
But then again, he's got Shrek too.
Yeah, I know, but I don't know.
You say it doesn't count, but fuck, it kind of counts.
When you're a comedian, you start doing the family dramas and stuff. I think that's when it's over. Or family comedies, it's over.
I kind of wish IMDb was a little easier. I just wish I could just see his movies. I could just make one click and see his movies. Now I gotta. All I want to do. We're not moving anywhere until I
look. Everyone, an old man tries to use a phone.
You know what? That's fair.
Thank you.
Why can't I just see his goddamn movies? I just want to see his movies.
I feel like I'm doing the show with Frank at this point.
I'll kiss your ass if you just get his movie.
I could do that in like probably.
You got a laptop though.
I do. I come prepared, they say.
Tell me what Chevy Chase made starting after Christmas Vacation.
Oh, Oh, that's mean. That's a war crime, isn't it? Let's see here. Chevy Chase.
Cops and Robbers. I can't remember. I can't even remember.
You want the filmography?
What he did make.
Let's see.
Like, it really does, in my mind, end at Christmas Vacation. Cops and Robinsons, I think, was 2 years later. I think that was 91.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
Was that Jack Palance? No, it wasn't Jack Palance.
All right. Yeah, it was. Okay. 89, he does Fletch Lives, which sucked. And Christmas Vacation.
Yeah.
Okay. 1991, he did nothing in 90.
Okay.
91, he does the only movie that Dan Aykroyd ever directed, Nothing But Trouble, which is horrible.
I remember it, but I never seen it.
A terrible movie. Then he does Memoirs of an Invisible Man with Daryl Hannah.
Oh, that was so bad.
Just so boring. Cops and Robinsons in 94.
Yeah.
Number 2, during this stretch, is also when he had a late night show on Fox for 6 weeks before it got canceled.
That was awful.
And he does Man of the House.
Is that with Jonathan
Taylor Thomas?
Okay.
And then he doesn't do anything in 96. 97, he does Vegas Vacation. In 98, he has a small part in Dirty Work, which is an hysterical, very funny
Norm
movie.
Macdonald?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good movie. And he has a small part in that. And then by 2000, he's in a movie called Snow Day.
Shit. Is that Cuba Gooding Jr.? No, that's Snow Dogs.
Yeah, Snow Day is with Chris Elliott and Gene Smart.
You know what? If you're starring with Chris Elliott at that point, you're
produced by Nickelodeon. It made money. But what do we do?
But you compare his 80 to 90 and his 90 to 2000.
Oh, his 90s were awful. I mean, that's it. You get your...
Give me his 80 just from
his
80
80s?
to 90.
Are you ready for this?
Give me all of his 80s.
Okay.
Because Funny Farm, like I said, is not bad.
It's not bad. So in 1980, he does a movie called Oh Heavenly Dog, which is 1980, like almost feels like a 70s, late 70s comedy. Yeah. It's with Benji, by the way. Caddyshack. He does a movie called Under the Rainbow, which is with Carrie Fisher. It's about kind of the behind the scenes of Wizard of Oz.
Okay.
83, he does National Lampoon's Vacation.
All right.
He does Deal of the Century, which is a bomb with Sigourney Weaver and Gregory Hines.
Okay.
85, he does Fletch, European Vacation, and Spies Like Us.
Probably his best year.
That's a hell of a year.
Yeah.
86, he does Three Amigos.
Which, he's rolling again.
Which works.
Yeah.
88, he does Funny Farm.
Yeah.
And Caddyshack 2.
So there, between 85 and 88, he had a high hit rate. It was everything he was
85 to 88. I mean, 83 did Vacation.
Yeah. So 83 to 88.
Yeah.
And then the Christmas Vacation 89. That's it.
That's it.
Wow. What a remarkable.
But the 90s were just a series of failures. Like we mentioned the movies, obviously the Chevy Chase show. I can't emphasize
enough. You're
really
right. Comedians, you got about 10 to 12, 15 years. And
that's it.
And and you're done. And even the bet, like Will Ferrell, I would say from 02 to probably, 2015 maybe. And that's probably stretching.
I mean, you could say that Adam Sandler has had a longer run than that. It's probably fair.
Sandler almost has put himself in his own bucket, right? Like Sandler movies are Sandler movies. And he created his own genre. His
own universe. He gets to release them right to Netflix now. He's in charge of all the production of them, where they're taken. He's taken such an ownership of the films.
Yeah.
Because he's so smart. Like Adam Sandler pretends he's dumb. He's a brilliant guy. So he's able to kind of control a lot of that. And he has a loyal audience that follows him everywhere.
Yeah. And I also don't know that Adam Sandler ever hit the highs of a Chevy Chase or Will Ferrell or Jim Carrey.
I'd agree. So, I don't know, when I think of Adam Sandler, the first two movies I think of are Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore.
So I think of Happy Gilmore and The Waterboy.
Okay, but those two, but Madison and Gilmore, neither one even made $50 million in the box office. Yeah. They both did well. Yeah. They both made money, but neither of them were huge. They became bigger hits on cable.
I think The Waterboy did well.
Waterboy did well. Once he did Wedding Singer, that's when he started to become
started printing money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because even then, after Waterboy, everything did well. Like
even Little Nicky did.
Big Daddy wasn't.
Big Daddy made a shitload of money.
Made a shitload of money. Little Nicky made a shitload of money.
Made money.
And Little Nicky was god awful.
Yeah, Little Nicky was rough.
He just made money every time out. Anyway, all right. Caddyshack 2 sucks.
Awful. We're back next week with
White Man Can't Jump.
Yeah, and Celtic Pride with Dan Aykroyd.
Motherfucker. He does show up again, doesn't he? Him and Daniel Stern?
Daniel Stern.
And Damon Wayans?
That's right.
That movie.
And a movie I believe Judd Apatow co-wrote.
I only saw it once. I saw it in the theater.
You saw it in the theaters? You're the person? You're the one?
Klemmer, when that movie came out, I saw basically Back to the Miners in theaters. When Celtic Pride was announced and the trailers, I thought, oh, fuck, we got one. This is going to be a good one. Because we were in the run. That's like 96. We were coming off of a run of great basketball movies, starting with White Man Can't Jump in 92, Above the Rim, Blue Chips. Like, we had just a litany of great basketball movies. And then here came Celtic Pride. I thought, okay.
Here we go.
And no, it's bad.
I have one last question for you.
Yeah.
Would Jensen Daggett have made Caddyshack 2 a better movie? I say absolutely. Let's say you take out Diane Cannon and you put in Jensen Daggett.
Just delightful.
I think that would have.
Jensen Daggett would have been amazing. Jensen Daggett would have been perfect. Yes, I would have loved Jensen Daggett. Anything that gets Jensen Daggett on my screen, I am for.
I mean, I'm just saying, it would have been a way to improve Caddyshack 2.
Would have improved Caddyshack 2. Plus, I don't know what when 98 was, she was in Major League Baseball minors. She was like 32.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
So it would have been 22-year-old Jensen Daggett. She could have played.
She could have played
the daughter.
Oh yeah, it would have been great.
That changes everything.
Yep.
God bless you, Jensen Daggett. I love you.
Jensen Daggett is great. Caddyshack 2 is not. Caddyshack 1, one of the greatest movies ever.